Hello there. Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Lifting the Veil podcast with myself, your host, the Integrative Awareness Coach. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Adrienne Lopez, and I am a quantum life coach, a hypnotherapist, an energy healer, a meditation educator, an all-around transformational leader. And I am committed to raising consciousness on the planet and guiding each of us in our awakening to the truth of who we are. And this week's episode is entitled Living Proof. And today I wanted to talk to you about what it means, like the difference between having philosophical, theoretical, idealistic, esoteric beliefs and actually living them. Applying principles to your life, in your everyday activities and actions. And how do we know when we're doing that? And how do we become living proof of what many different teachings and lessons have told us is available? So I want to start off with, before I go into the topic today, I wanted to make a special announcement that I have been called, like in my heart, to share with you 10 days of free content from my most recent signature course called A Force of Nature. And it is a playbook about how you can access your full potential and power. And today, that's really what I'm talking about. It's one thing to have a bunch of self-help books on your bookshelf or in your Audible account. It's another to actually apply those principles. Because the mind, this ego, this thinking mind, lives through thinking. Like I can think my way into success, or I can think my way into fulfillment or satisfying relationships or intimacy or vulnerability. When in actuality, it doesn't actually require much thinking at all. It has been my experience that true transformational living requires choosing ways of being that are in alignment with what you say you value. So, many of us are stuck in our comfort zone, and I include myself here because I am a human and I am in the same boat as many of you, but I have made a commitment to constantly be in the conversation about what's real. And so through my commitment to this conversation, and this commitment to not just the conversation, but actually the inspired action behind the conversation that makes all the difference, right? Because you can talk until the cows come home. Believe me, I have. But what's the difference between having the knowledge and applying this knowledge, this incredible knowledge that many of us have collected on the way? I'm going to take a sip of tea. My throat is feeling a little dry tonight. Probably because I've been doing a lot of talking today. Anyhow, what has come down, I'm just going to bottom line it for you because I appreciate when people do that. And I'm going to keep today's episode a bit shorter than I usually do. And so bottom line it, if you take a look around your life right now and you see the conditions in your life, whether that's relationships, your job, relationship to money, time, health, all the categories in our life that we use to measure our sense of fulfillment and happiness. Those conditions reveal our beliefs. And our beliefs are simply narratives or stories that we begin telling ourselves at one time in our life for one reason or the next. Most often, in order to make sense of things that don't make sense. I mean, when you take things out of linear sentencing, which we use in language, or you put things in a different order, it creates a different meaning, a different filter, a different value system. And so it isn't a matter of looking at what is the bigger order of things that you are using to order your thinking, to order your thoughts, to order your beliefs. And for many of this is we aren't conscious of it because nobody has asked us. Some of us have done study and research. We have looked into these things about the power of the force of nature that we are, and how our belief systems act as a filter or a funnel for that energy. So let's look at our relationship to money, for example. That's usually a hot topic for most people. And money is a symbol. It is a physical symbol in this 3D world of value. We made it up, right? People said this paper money that is worthless in itself. We're going to agree that it's worth whatever the denomination on the front is. And we're going to trade our time and energy for this symbol of value. But we gave it the value. We agreed on one level to the next to the value. Now, this is interesting because this metaphor of value is really the same metaphor that creates beliefs. And our culture, at least in America, in the Western world, our thinking has been largely determined by an economic system. Our values, what we see as important, what we strive for. But this doesn't mean that this is the truth with the capital T, or that any of it will bring us true fulfillment, happiness, or joy. So, back to our beliefs. This is a loaded question, of course, because the beliefs are kept in place through an emotional cement, let's say, or emotional glue. So if you took the time to really sink in to your cognitive map, which is a reflection of your belief system, the words that you use and how you speak reflects your value system. And when I say it reflects your value system, I mean it reflects the internal conditioning, the shades of gray that you're living your life out of in relationship, for this example, to money. So when we sink down into this, start listening to ourselves speak, how we write, how we talk to ourselves about money. So I'll give you an example. from my life, because I like examples, because they really help illustrate a concept. And in this case, the concept is our relationship to money and how it shows up. So the minute I think about money, there's a little bit of fear that comes up in me, to be honest. And so, if I want to get real interested in it, I can start having a conversation with that fear, because that fear isn't mine. It is collective. And there is a unique expression that I inherited of this collective fear in my body from my family. And so, if I began to look at my belief system around money, I didn't make it up by myself. I got years of conditioning around lack, around the type of work you do, the type of struggle you have to go through, the type of person you have to be in order to earn enough money just to get by. And so when you're ready to start cleaning up a relationship with something in your life, whether it's money or partnerships, whatever it is, your health, you get to start sinking down into the reality that you're living in. And you get to start to recognize the parts of that belief system or that story that have been keeping you loyal to family agreements, let's say. So maybe there's an agreement in your family that all good people have to struggle really hard to earn living. And if you were not to partake in that story, you would not be being loyal to your parents' struggle and their parents' struggle, or whoever it was that invented that in your family line. And so this would be an opportunity, a little crack, let's say, in the armor, where you could start opening that up in your psyche and begin to really sink down into this Socratic method with yourself, to have a conversation with this fragment of your psyche, this collective consciousness that you're housing internally, often unaware. Because many of these fragments, these belief systems that we've internalized, have been there for so long that they've become invisible to us, even though they are what is determining our outcome, our level of success, our ability to show up in the way that we say that we're committed to in this life. So I believe that it's easiest to really pick one area of your life where you would like to start creating living proof for your ego, the contrary to what it's been attached to. So, for example, in my life, in my example that I just gave you about my story, my inherited story about money, and how that's equaled love and connection and loyalty to a whole way of living, in order to justify it, in order to validate it, in order to acknowledge and to really pay homage to the struggle of my parents and how they made money or got by. And so this would be the time where I would close my eyes, and I would have a journal in my hand, and I would listen to all the way my mind is showing me my beliefs around money by listening. And so this is really an effective tool to actually write it down on a piece of paper, because it externalizes it outside of you so you can see it for what it is. And so for me, as I am talking with you right now, I'm just taking a moment to check in with the stories I received around, what are acceptable ways to make money. Who's allowed to make money? What does it mean if you have more than enough money and you're not just getting by? And then I get to counter those beliefs with the truth. Some people call this dialectic behavioral therapy. When you begin to talk back to those internalized narratives that you might not even notice because they've been there for so long, as I mentioned. So you were beginning a counter narrative, and usually the truth is somewhere in the middle. And then that gives you an option to start clearing the ground. So for me, there seems to be some guilt and some shame around charging money for my services as a life coach, for example. Like, who do I think I am? What will people think if I value myself in such a way where I actually charge money for my time and energy, my skill set, all of the training and knowledge that I've accumulated and paid thousands and thousands of dollars to accumulate and to gather in my own healing process? Like, what would happen? Like, what kind of people or like are full of so much self-importance that they would actually charge to help people? And it's interesting because, I've always been in the helping profession, a helping profession. This is the first time. No, I did work for myself, but I was providing a physical service where there was a clear before and after. There was a visibly different outcome. And the interesting thing about coaching is that it's not visible. It is this internal work that eventually shifts the outer result. But it's not like you fill your basket up with books or like coaching materials, because it is an energetic exchange of transformation that happens in conversation. It may happen in exercises. It may happen in meditation or hypnotherapy practice. It might happen in energy work. And so for me, my biggest obstacle has been, how do I charge money? How do I justify charging money for something that is intangible? Like, you can't pick it up. And at the same time, my brain knows the incredible value of, let's say, a healing hypnotherapy session. At the same time, I know the relief that an energy session and shift, like the shift it can bring in my own awareness, let alone another person's awareness. And that I value this work so highly. But it's totally out of the wheelhouse of how I was raised and the type of work in which I was allowed to do. And so I have had the opportunity to dig deep into those belief systems, to begin to neutralize them, to heal them, and transform them. Transform those internal cognitive maps that language shows me, that my language shows me, of what I'm placing value on, what I've given myself permission to earn money around, how I'm allowed to earn money. And so this is just one small example of how we get to, you and I, get to apply these principles in order to create a living, to create living proof that our belief system is fundamental to how we show up, to what we get to experience, the quality of that experience, and how free we are able to access that experience, and that we are ultimately the boss, and that it is a process of reclaiming our own power, to take an inventory of the closets of organized belief systems that we have put into place without much of a conscious choice, because that's how the mind works. It is a mirror. We are specialists at mimicry, ability to copy, to reproduce, to mirror back. That's how we learn. That's how we learn language. And so, my friends, I invite you to pick an area of your life where you would like to experience a living proof that you are, or that you have access. Let's say it this way, that you are the sole power in your life, and that you have access to use that power in a way that you see fit. And that you can do that through bringing your awareness to your belief systems through the language that you use. So whatever the area of your life that you're longing to have a transformation in, for example, I was sharing mine around money and how I earn a living. I began listening and writing down your cognitive maps that are revealed to you through the way you speak. And I must admit that I have a natural propensity for this because I was a literature major and I loved analyzing texts, because I began to discover that every text holds an entire code that reveals a relationship to life. It reveals a value system. It reflects a worldview of, for example, a character, the construct of their world is revealed through their language literally, as a character, for example, in a novel. And I always thought it was so extremely fascinating that if that's true for a character in a novel, then that is definitely true for us and our construct of the world. And that's so fascinating because in the books, many of the classic novels that I've read, plays by Shakespeare, the classics, like all good authors, either intuitively knew, I would believe that they discovered it through their own love of literature, that what they were really doing was constructing a version of reality through words. And that once you see the power of that, it's all connected. And that by changing the way, first of all, identifying it, and then shifting the way we speak about the world actually changes the way we see the world, and then the way we relate to the world and how we're allowed to be in the world. And that is living proof. Like we get to be living proof of the power of our word. So I'm going to leave you there, and I want to thank you so much for stopping by and taking a listen to this week's episode. If you have any comments or questions, please put them in the comments section, or you can message me privately on any of my social media platforms, which are included in the description of this podcast. I want to thank you again, and until next time, please remember what a valuable treasure you are, and I'll see you next time. Just a reminder, tomorrow, May 2nd, I start the 10-day snapshot into my latest signature course, A Force of Nature, How to Claim Your Full Potential and Power. And that's going to be live every day for 10 days on my Mind Heart Space Facebook page at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you can't make the live, that's okay. You can watch the replay, which will be on my business page. But do put it on your calendar. Make time. We're going to be talking about this same topic of how to shift our relationship to ourselves and how we get to start being the living proof, the lived experience of all of these wonderful concepts and lessons that we've learned in these self-help books. But how do we actually live it in our embodied everyday experience to improve and enrich our lives in the way that we require? All right. I hope you can make it. I'll see you over there hopefully tomorrow. Bye for now.